Oh, people are scared for raising prices. If I just raise my price a tiny, tiny bit, I'm going to lose all my business. But of course, that's not the case.
Paul Green's
MSP Marketing
Podcast.
The Big
Interview.
Hi there. My name is Per Sjofors, and weird name, I know. It makes perfect sense in my native Scandinavia. And because of that, and among other reasons, I also go by the name The Price Whisperer. And pricing is what I do. I help companies of all sizes globally to price right and stop leaving money on the table.
And thank you very much, Mr. Whisperer, for joining me on the show. Pricing is such an emotional and evocative thing. I know not just for MSPs, but for all business owners. Now, you obviously are one of the big experts on pricing. What is it that makes getting the pricing right such an evocative thing?
Oh, people are scared for raising prices. I talk to CEOs of smallish and mid-market companies day in and day out. And what I hear all the time is that if I just raise my price a tiny, tiny bit, I'm going to lose all my business. But of course, that's not the case, right? And in fact, pricing is so important for several reasons. Pricing is actually the strongest message of benefits and quality. So if you're too low price, people won't buy because they simply think that whatever product or service that you're selling is not going to be any good. They don't believe you're going to live up to your promises. Pricing is also so important because it has the highest leverage of profitability. Because it works on the top line. Because it works on the top line, it affects profits the most. And that means that if you can increase your prices, your profitability increases. If you can decrease your discount, your profitability increases with much more than if you can reduce cost the same amount or increase your sales volume the same amount. So, and profits are good. Profits is something that you use to become more competitive, to develop new services, to market better, to market more, to even hire better people.
Yeah, you don't have to sell the concept of increasing profits to anyone listening to this podcast. That's very much a top of mind thing for us. Now, we're going to come on to the process of getting your price right. But you said you said two very interesting things there. You said that people are scared to put their prices up. And you also said that we link price or value perception with the price. And the second you said that, I thought of Apple. Now, many MSPs think I'm crazy for being an Apple fanboy, but I am. I'm recording this on a Mac. I've got my iPhone here, my iPod. It's not 2005, Paul. My iPad is, back down there. I've got my Apple Watch. We've got two Apple TVs in the house. There is virtually no mainstream Apple product that I haven't bought. And each time I think, whoa, that's expensive, but I know it's going to last. I equate it with quality. In fact, my child does her schoolwork on a 10-year-old MacBook Air, which still works perfectly well. It's a bit slow, but it works perfectly well. And that was, I don't know, $1,000 10 years ago. Yep. And how many other laptops, can still be relied upon for day-to-day work after 10 years. Right. So I think we see that, and MSPs will see their own equivalent of that with the technology that they prefer buying, and yet we're still scared to put the prices up. So what's going on? Talk us through the emotions that happen to us as business owners when we fail to make the right decision.
Well, it's obviously it's fear, and fear is very strong in anywhere you go. But the much of it has to do with that pricing is largely ignored in business education. You spend man month to learn about strategy, man month to learn about cost and accounting and stuff like that, and then there is an afternoon about pricing, right? and so that's one point, and the little that are being taught about pricing in business school, and most books about pricing are so theoretical and so academic that it's absolutely useless. And a few years back, I was asked to review and comment on a article from the Harvard Business Review. Some professor in marketing that had written it, and he talked about these traditional demand curves. You know, you have price on the y-axis and sales volume on the x-axis, and it's a straight line, right? The higher the price, the lower the sales. And I said, you can't use them. I mean, these are just false, because that's not reality. And in the end, he sort of completely ignored what I said, because that is what academia does. You know, these curves have been used for the last 50 years, and we're not going to change it only because you tell me something. You know, and yet, you know, I'm sure many of us have had the same experience that you go to market with whatever price you go to market with, and then you increase your price for reasons, and lo and behold, you see an increase in sales volume too, right? Those traditional demand curves doesn't tell you that. They also doesn't tell you that there's something called price walls, psychological price points, where small price changes can make huge changes in sales volume and revenue, either positive or negative.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've done a few times on this podcast in the last 3 years, and something I do with all the MSPs I work closely with, is say, hey, put your prices up. So do it carefully for existing clients, because that needs to be done with thought and consideration. But for new clients, you should be, you know, every time you make a sale, in my mind, the price should go up, because obviously the new client who's coming to talk to you, or the new prospect who's coming to talk to you today, doesn't know that the price went up yesterday. And we have listeners all over the world in multiple different countries, and the thing is that the price in the city I live in the UK is not the right price for the city that you live in. No. So you have to kind of push the price up until you discover the ceiling. Mm-hmm. Is that a good strategy, or have I been getting that wrong?
It's a strategy. First of all, you can increase prices to existing customers as well. And in fact, if you go to my company's website, you can download a guide called the 7 Easy Steps to increase prices and keep your customers happier, right? And there's a method that is basically, it's about how you communicate both internally and externally. And obviously, preferably, you should use your pricing based on willingness to pay research, so you know to avoid these price walls, et cetera, et cetera. The problem with what you just said is that pricing power is something that comes from differentiation. And with pricing power, I mean that is the ability to increase prices, not lose sales volume, or even gain sales volume. Now, that pricing power you get from differentiation. And unless you know what specific features, functions, and benefits and so forth that leads to a higher willingness to pay, you don't know. and therefore, as you just go to market with the same sort of benefit statements that you've had for some time, you know, your strategy of just increasing prices until you get pushback works. But it may be that using other benefit statements will lead to a higher price before you get the pushback, or you may find that there's another market vertical among your clients that will accept higher prices than another market vertical, and so forth, you know.
So can you give us a practical example of how that would work? And maybe as you said, they're looking for the niche within your audience of someone that's likely to pay more. So for example, would looking at a regulated audience such as lawyers be a great place to look for someone that's willing to pay more money? Because obviously if they're regulated, the consequences of them having a cybersecurity attack is so much higher than it would be for an unregulated industry.
Yeah, or it could be. Obviously regulated like lawyers, or if you serve the medical industry in some way, there are lots of rules and regulations, and security is really tight, and those are most likely to be willing to pay higher prices if you as a vendor can provide that security that they require. Or another, let me give you an example. We worked with an MSP a few years back, and they were going to market as a commodity, and they said, we can't hold prices. We have to discount to get any business, and what we actually found was that they were at the time unique because they had developed a certain intellectual property on how you integrate a data center with AWS. And their customers were willing to pay substantially higher fees for that integration, and it made them differentiated. They were not longer a commodity, and they could reap much higher sales, much higher profits, and grow tremendously over the next couple of years.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Per, tell us a little bit more about your business, what you do. And also, I know you have a book, so tell us about your book. And earlier on in the interview, you mentioned a free guide. So tell us how we can get hold of that. My
moniker, The Price Whisperer, the best way of finding me, finding my new book, finding my company, finding my YouTube channel is all to do a Google search for The Price Whisperer. The book is all about everything you need to know about pricing, really. Although I've just started on a second edition, so there's going to be a little bit more eventually. The website has 6 or 7 guides that you can download for free. There's also on the website a masterclass in pricing. These are 19 video episodes with, again, just about everything there is to know about pricing. And we do sell that. And it's $950. But if we have a coupon that you can use, which is Fall 2022, and you'll get a 20% discount on the masterclass. It's not theory. This is not anything that comes out of academia. And in fact, I think I should give the audience a little bit of the backstory here. In that I ran companies, a couple of them in Europe and several of them here in the US. And we did experiments with pricing, and some of those experiments worked really well. Like next quarter revenues are up 25%. Some were complete duds. And what I had learned in business school about pricing was so theoretical and so academic that it was useless information. And it's that process that I eventually developed and started the company around that makes every pricing experiment a success. And that is to do willingness to pay research, which is done online from where we can accurately measure what a market to our clients are willing to pay, and then from that predict sales volume and revenue at different prices and identify price walls.
I love it. Thank you so much. And I know you said to Google it, but just give us your website address.
You can do pricewhisper.me.
Paul Green's
MSP Marketing
Podcast.